We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
They're here.
What are you gonna do?
Starts voting to it.
So, what, in your view, Donald Kessler, chairman, can Russians teach us, professor?
That aliens may have visited us in the past.
Hell yeah.
And what does what does she do? Fascinating stuff.
You know what, I'm gonna post a clip of me doing that on Instagram when we're finished.
Oh my god. Well, today, hi.
I'm Lee.
And I'm Nathan. And we're definitely not aliens. Although we may share genetic DNA with
aliens.
Aliens! Whoa! Wagon wheel 1-2.
No, aliens are gross. And
Why don't you come up and
off.
UFO sauce me in the ass sometime?
Wow. No, aliens can absolutely fuck off.
And you're listening to
They're
Here.
No, you're listening to The Slab.
The Slab! We
Yeah.
always fuck that up.
Whatever. Listen, that's what post is for.
Yes.
So today, I feel like this is kind of a very you topic.
Oh.
Now, I have my opinions, but...
Which they don't matter.
This is very... Neither the fuck do yours, you frozen grape-eating ass fucking primate.
Listen, you.
Primate.
Triggered.
What the fuck was that?
Triggered. It's the triggered bit. You know, the red... never mind.
No. You're an ape.
As are you.
No, I'm not.
Then what are you?
You're a heterosapien. I'm something different. Don't forget, you're named after us. I told you I stepped out of a gay lake when I was a child.
Okay. So, here's the thing, right?
Yeah, I'm an alien. Yeah.
Let me set the stage.
Okay. Oh, please don't eat during the podcast, though.
Everything.
Go
right?
kick those off the bed.
Let me set the stage for how this all came into being.
Uh-huh.
Picture this, right? Little 14-year-old impressionable me watching Ancient Aliens on the History Channel.
Real time.
Real time, real talk. And just soaking in this whole new theory.
Picture it. The year was 1. Ancient Sumeria.
Aliens were landing real time.
Nathan had just gotten his first wooden horse.
Yeah. And super, super excited to be like, well, whoa, this is not what I've been told in because this is not what I've been told in history class or religion or X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. Because then you're looking at it and you're like, this is your sort of my introduction to the first sort of pseudo-archaeology.
Which
quote,
means
unquote.
made up.
Made up. Made up as you're going along
a fantasy,
with it. Yeah. So, if you don't know, we're talking about ancient aliens. The theory is that, well, quote unquote from Eric von Daniken, that's for fucking sure,
I do love
is... You like that name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It refers to a pseudo-scientific set of beliefs which holds that intelligent extraterrestrial beings, who I now believe were thick as shite for coming to this waterhole, visited Earth and made contact with humans in antiquity and prehistoric times. Proponents suggest that this contact influenced the development of modern cultures, technologies, religions, and human biology. A common position is that deities from most, if not all, religions are extraterrestrial in origin, and that advanced technologies brought to Earth by ancient astronauts, i.e. aliens, were interpreted as evidence of divine status by early humans, because they obviously didn't know what the fuck they were looking at. You know, this is Cthulhu. Yeah, that was air quotes the whole way through that. But this is like Cthulhu level shit where they have no idea what they're looking at, and they're presuming flying saucer is according to the Mahabharata, Garuda, which is the bird that Vishnu flies in on.
Yeah.
So yeah, That's that. End of. Thanks. Bye.
I see. That's the thing. I feel like there is, like, obviously, it's very interesting to like explore these ideas in kind of a
Curiosity.
in a curiosity kind of in a good storytelling way.
Yeah.
But then also, I feel like some of it is rooted in weird problematic stuff.
Yeah.
In a way that people may not realize, because I feel like a lot of people, you know, we'll get into it. I don't want to like throw out my whole I don't want to throw out my whole. I don't want to like.
Period.
Exactly. I don't want to like throw out the whole strong argument or strong talking point like straight away. I don't want to like show all my cards, but it obviously makes sense that people think this way. But also, I feel like this is just as probable as believing in gods, believing in deities, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
A lot of the reason why we have those things that still as a holdover is because people back in the day didn't know how to explain what they were seeing.
Yeah.
They didn't have science behind them. It's why we have the Thunderbird for Native American cultures. It's why we have whatever. You know what I mean? It's, you put a name to something that you don't understand to help you better understand it, and then people are now kind of like, ooh, well, what is that though? You know, and it's like, well, there's a reason most people thought that like the sky was fascinating. It's because it is, like, even in a non-scientific, even in a non-religious way, it's like the sky just fucking looks cool. And guess what? If you're like in a shamanic little village or whatever like that, and you're eating these plants that make you hallucinate,
ayahuasca,
looking up at the sky is going to be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Especially if it's ancient times where there's no, like, everything is natural light and stuff, where there's just going to be, like, hella stars in the sky. If you see a shooting star go across the sky when you're eating your little mushrooms back in the day, sitting in your little tribe looking for the sky, you're obviously going to be like, what the fuck is that there?
Yeah, you're going to look at it and be like, was that an angel? Was that, I don't know, a dragon? So shit like that, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly, the star people. So, let me just back it up a little bit. I want to purely come at this from a fact point of view.
What the fuck does that mean?
So the way I'm going to present some of like what I'm talking about is a fact point of view. Like, it's not. It's...
You just said the same thing again.
Thank you.
Stop.
So the way I want to present it is purely just
Don't say
here.
fact again.
Here is my understanding of.
Don't say my truth. I'm gonna fucking bust your jaw if you say my truth.
From what I've read into, from what I'm sort of taking away the bells and whistles of what can be interpreted as, you know, the gods, or these are aliens, or blah 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 blah. You know,
Okay.
I wanna say that straight up. So. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the quote which I read to you the last time, which is from, which is from Eric von Daniken's book Chariots of the Gods, which is arguably the holy grail, shall we say, of like the ancient astronaut theory.
It's kind of, it's the go-to. It's kind of the whole basis for like Prometheus and stuff like that. Any kind of modern depictions of ancient aliens or anything like that is basically like, this is the book. He wrote the book on this. You know what I mean? Yeah,
this is one of those things where you look at it and you're like, because what Eric von Daniken did is, I mean, technically now he has like 60, 70 books out there, but Chariots of the God was the original proposed kind of theory of his ancient astronauts, the evidence therein.
Yeah.
But he also roots it in tangible evidence. He doesn't just pull shit out of thin air and stuff like that. But there is a quote from him that I it always, when I read Chariot of the Gods, this is the one thing that stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Is the astronomical possibility of life that is out there.
It's just a quote being like, aliens are fucking real, bro. Trust me.
It's a quote that stuck in my head that I have honestly I've never forgotten until this day. It was purely just based off of the possibility of how much of a possibility within our own galaxy that life exists. Now, whether that means intelligent life, i.e. you and me here now speaking on a podcast, or it means lower life forms, i.e. animals or microbial life.
I was gonna say, like germs and shit like that.
Exactly. That the odds of that aren't as, like, quote unquote, aren't as astronomical as we think it would be. Because the way this quote is kind of spaced out still tells you, like, within our own solar system, there is still the possibility of life. We have on the moons of, I think it's Saturn, there is one of the moons, I think it's Titan.
It's a Phobos and...
Phobos.
Oh, fuck. Phobos and... Whatever, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. Great. There's Phobos and there's Titan. Titan is the one that it's a rocky moon, but it's covered in ice. But underneath there is, because we haven't sent anything there that's actually gone in and drilled anything in, there is rumored to be water. So as we all know, life simply craves water because carbon can stick together easily within that, and we are carbon-based life forms. This is how we kind of grow.
It is the essence of wetness. You know, I crave that mineral. Sorry, I'm just going to do this whole episode.
I hate you. So Eric von Daniken says in his book, the astronomer Harlow Shapley estimates that there are some 10 to the 20th stars within the range of our telescopes.
Harlow Shapley, is that like a Coke bottle shaped ass person?
Harlow
Shapley is like a model's name. You know what I mean?
When Shapley associates a planetary system with only 1 in 1,000 stars, we may assume that it is a very cautious estimate. If we continue to speculate on the basis of this estimate and suspect the necessary conditions for life on only 1 star in 1,000, the calculation still gives a figure of 10 to the 14th.
Of course.
Shapley asks how many stars in this truly astronomical figure have an atmosphere suitable for life. 1 in 1,000? That would still leave the incredible figure of 10 to the 11th stars. So every 10,000 out of 11,000 stars will have the possibility of life in them.
Of course.
The stars with the prerequisites for life. Even if we assume that only every 10,000th planet out of this figure has produced life, there is still 100 million planets on which we can speculate that life exists. This calculation is based on the telescopes using the techniques available today, but we must not forget that these are consistently improving, and this may change as time progresses.
Fabulous.
So that's a direct quote from Chariots of the Gods, which, by the way, I definitely recommend people read.
Short read.
It's a short read, but it is absolutely just like, as soon as I read it, I was like, this is one of those moments where if you were to like imagine like a door just opening in my brain, I was just like, all the weird shit was just like sinking in, and like it was just so good. And when I read that, I have never forgotten that.
Well, see, to kind of reply to that though, I don't find it insane, but also I have always thought, now I might sound a little les incompetents, as the French say, but like I always thought when I was younger, I was like, well, maybe like
Les, I don't know her.
Like maybe it's not that crazy that we could be the only life forms. Again, like this.
Do you believe? Do you like, even with the possibility
in life
of like,
after love?
Oh, but do you believe?
I feel like again, I'm not going to be like no, but I'm also not going to be like, oh yeah, there's definitely aliens. Maybe not in the sense like how we think, where there would be like humanoid, like little greys or whatever like that. But also, like, there is more than enough stories to kind of pique your interest. But I
Yeah.
always thought, I was like, well, on some planets it fucking rains diamonds. On some planets it's made completely out of gas. And, like, on some planets it's just, like, entirely too hot. Like, well, maybe our planet's thing is us, is, like, plants and, like, human life, or just life in general, because, like, I feel like it is weird to kind of separate human life from animals, because we literally are animals. Like,
We just happen to be the ones that are dominating.
but we're just that's just what we call ourselves. Like, we still are animals. People have a hard time kind of wrapping their head around that. It's like we just are, like, we build houses the same way birds build houses or ants build houses. We just do different stuff with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like every planet kind of, like, has its own thing, and, like, maybe we are just this planet's thing. Just because we came around by, like, again, I'm not super familiar with the history of the rest of the planets and stuff.
I don't know them personally.
For other shit's going on, but, like, we came around by, like, so accident, though.
Yeah.
Like, the chances of us coming around and sticking around and being what we are now is, like, so by happenstance, and so would be so hard to recreate.
Yeah.
If somebody was trying to do it intentionally, you know? But then also it's the whole thing of, like, well, if it could happen, it probably has happened in however long the universe has been around. Because then there's that theory of, like, well, what if shit already has happened billions of years ago and it's been wiped out and it started again, or whatever. Like, we never know that.
Yeah,
You know?
it's...
Or, like, the idea that, like, the universe is, like, currently expanding, and it's like, into what? Like, what do you mean? Like, that's such a hard concept for people to wrap their brains.
Megalophobia.
No, but it is. It's such a hard concept for people to, like, wrap their brain around, the idea
Yeah.
that the universe itself is expanding. And it's like, but what do you mean? Where's the empty space that we're pushing into? Or, like, what are the limits of it, you know? Which is just insane. But then, like that, philosophers, when you start thinking about shit like that, you drive yourself crazy.
Yes.
Because there is no possible way to know shit like that. Although, those cunts back in the day, they're like, let me get out my compass. And then they're like, oh, look at this star and then this star. And the Earth is this wide. That's like, how the fuck did you know that? How did you find that out? And then they burnt their books.
Well, it's interesting you should mention, like, however old the universe and things like that is.
Yeah.
From...
What was it like back then?
It was great. It was really hot, actually.
So hot.
So, the estimated age of the universe, as of current understanding, is 13.5 billion years old.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a lot bigger than you think it is. That's a lot bigger of a number than you think it is.
It's like a year younger than me.
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah. I was the one that, like,
Turned the light switch on.
Yeah. And the universe was like, oh, 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
So, the way people view this, there's a theory going around with, it's 13.5 billion years old. The cooling of the universe and things like that, and the expansion begins a couple million years.
Sunglasses on and had a cigarette.
Yeah. Throws on a big tan leather jacket.
Yeah.
So the cooling of the universe allowed massive stars to form, which, you know, when they, you know, exploded with passion and fire and everything that they needed, they created the prerequisites for life to evolve and things like that. So created even way cooler shit when they died, and then they blew up, and then they died with passion, and even way crazier, cooler shit was made.
Yeah.
The elements of the table of elements was
Not putting
as they
emotion into stars. Go ahead.
but they were fabulous. They were blue. They were actually green at the time. And
Blowing up like...
those stars that died, believe it or not, are now these supermassive black holes that are parts of our galaxies.
I don't like that.
It's great. So, the theory goes that as the universe started to cool down and gravity kind of began to take hold of things a lot more, forcing planets to be created, stars to be created, to be born, to die, to give birth to even cooler shit. The theory is that we know that we are 4.5 to 5 million years old, our Earth. That is post the moon smashing into us. we know that we are either, the way people look at it is we are either super, super latecomers to the universe stage, or we're super, super early. The reason why people say that we haven't heard anything from whoever else is out there is because the universe has expanded so much that they will never, like, light from our planet will never reach their space.
So that's like a big proponent as to why people don't believe, because then it's like,
which is sad.
Because then it's like, why the fuck hasn't there been contact, like, whatsoever?
Well, we are nearly 5 million years old at this point. Like, if no one has, you know, come looking for us at the moment, considering we now sending massive shit into space.
Exactly. Did you see that, like, that picture, or like that, like, kind of like infographic of the amount of satellites that are actually, like, around the Earth? It's insane.
It looks like a garbage
but it's
yard.
Like, it's like sci-fi shit.
Yeah.
Like, it actually is. It's that what's that? It's like that scene from Hitchhiker's Guide, where it's all the things that surround Earth and then, like, make it like destroy it,
implode.
It literally kind of looks like that.
It's sort of sad because, like, if we are,
you're in bending and Mars Attacks now.
Well,
the Martians have come to save us.
Well, because, like, there's two possibilities. If we've come too early, then we will be long gone, and there will be no evidence of us by the time another intelligent civilization rises, or we're too late and we missed our chance, which is also sad. Because there's that famous quote from Stephen Hawking, either we are alone. The famous question is either we are alone or we aren't alone. Yeah. Both are equally terrifying. And if we are alone, we're kind of fucked.
But also, not really. If we are alone, that's cool. Because then that makes us kind of the most intelligent species in the galaxy.
And we are just as close to blowing ourselves up as we are intelligent.
Yeah, but no other species...
I hear you, man. Ego is shit.
But no other species is like... That's the thing. On one hand, it's super shitty, but then on the other hand, it's super impressive, because no other species has ever been able to come close to that. To have the ability to do that, though. That's the thing.
That we know of.
No, but on Earth, every animal... If every single one of every animal, like got together, they couldn't destroy the Earth. But we could if we wanted to.
True.
Like,
they don't possess the power to do it.
No, it's impressive. And literally, it's the tiny, tiny little differences between us and a lot of other animals that make us superior, which is insane. The idea of just having an extra couple of bones in your hand is the reason why we're here. Or the reason why... like, we shouldn't be the dominant species, but we are, which is insane, because we have soft skin, we have brittle bones, we have no real natural defense systems. Our things are tools, you know. Now, people have also speculated, I feel like monkeys come up a lot in the ancient aliens theory, or chimps and stuff like that, because they're like they have to be like in the Venn diagram with us and aliens, and that's how you get us, or it's aliens and chimps and then equals us. The idea that, like, primates are now also, or other primates, like lower functional primates than us, are now kind of going through their own kind of stone age, which is insane. But also it's like, yeah, why wouldn't that fucking happen? They have been around just as long as us. But yeah, the idea that, like, it could cycle out, and the idea that something else could become dominant is kind of cool. Because I do believe, though, that, like, if apes just had, like, a little bit of... I don't know what the extra thing they would need, but, like, apes could absolutely destroy the fuck out of us. Like, they are stronger than us. They have all the shit that we would probably need, natural defense system-wise, to be able to survive in the wild. Like, the only reason we have all the buildings and shit that we have, or guns, or swords, or tools, or whatever, is because we don't have any of those defense systems. You know? Aliens, man.
Well,
crazy, bro.
That's actually another part of the ancient astronaut theory, is the fact that...
Yeah, can we actually get into the ancient astronaut element?
Yeah, so, like, the idea is that either pre-civilization, meaning before we mutated from Homo sapien, or Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, is...
I had a Homo erectus last night.
is the pointed fact that they intervened sometime in the past. This is the theory, is that they intervened sometime in the past with our genetic DNA, either with crossbreeding of something else or their own DNA, and sort of like phased out. Because didn't we eat our cousins?
We ate the Neanderthals and the Cro-Magnon and stuff like that. But also, we didn't just eat them. We did breed with them. There is
evidence,
but there is still a lot of Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon like DNA walking around at the moment. You know, in this room, for instance.
Yeah, man, if this place was under a black light, my God, it would look like a Jackson Pollock painting.
Yeah, but it would just be all fingerprints and handprints all over the place. It would be like,
I'm just supporting, you know, my ancestors.
But that's the thing, though, there is, like when you see people walking around with like a heavier brow ridge, that's Neanderthal traits. Like that is stuff that's still left over from them, like mating with us, or us raping them, or them raping us, because it wouldn't probably have been like,
hey, take you on a date?
Yeah, exactly. You know, come to this cave often, you know?
If you're looking for some really, really interesting reads, there are a few people that are really, really interesting sort of personalities that have built a career off of, like, the ancient astronaut theory. You have Linda Moulton Howe, who is massively into, like, the UFO sort of region of ancient aliens.
And Linda Moulton Y.
You then have, if you don't know him, he's the famous meme. He has his hands out like this, crazy hair, and he's like aliens.
Yeah.
His name is Giorgio Tsoukalkos, and he is a massive, massive proponent of the ancient astronaut theory.
I do feel like he and that show on the History Channel, whatever, is a massive reason why people laugh at this theory, though.
Oh,
because of how ridiculous and out there some of the shit is.
Yeah.
It's very Room 237.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It's just kind of like, just write a book, write a story, if you really want to like be saying these things, but don't put them out as theory, as in filled with fears.
You have also one of them who sort of he sort of goes into sort of a more Atlantis theorist. His name's Graham Hancock. If you haven't read any of his shit, don't worry about it. Go to the Joe Rogan Experience with him. It's fascinating to listen to him talk. It's total bullshit.
To Rogan, you'll get a lot of it.
Total bullshit at the same time, but it's
the
fascinating.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there is an episode where he comes back on the Joe Rogan Experience and the Joe Rogan. And he comes back on, but there's another two conspiracy theorists with him, and then there's a guy who's just, this is science, you're wrong. And Graham Hancock gets so pissed off and angry that he starts cursing at him.
I would too, though. Like, don't bring me on to make a fucking fool out of me, though.
He's not. He was like, I came on specifically to chat to this person, to have a discussion, an open debate, and rationalizing one's position on things. But like every time Graham Hancock like says, but this is this evidence, he's like, yeah, but here's the actual real evidence.
Graham Hancock is opposed to Graham Dickfoot.
Listen, if you could stop, okay?
Foot penis.
So I sort of one of the big headings that I have are places that are connected with the ancient astronaut theory.
You got a lot of like Sumeria and Egypt, and
the Antarctic,
a lot of like
South America,
ancient structures and shit like that. This is kind of where I'll give my theory.
So the one thing that I've always looked at was the Nazca lines, which, if you don't know, is the massive petroglyphs that you find in the deserts of Peru. There's one that is a monkey, there's a spider, there is, what's the bird with the really, really long beak?
Barbra Streisand.
Shut up. It sucks into flowers for the nectar. Hummingbird.
A hummingbird.
Hummingbird. And then, so those are beautiful.
They're cool. They're the only things that can fly stationary.
It's great. I love those little things. They're beautiful.
But they also look really dumb though, where they're like, because it's just that. No, but it's just that little like
So these they're beautiful, beautiful petroglyphs, and you can take chartered flights to fly out over them, which I hope to do one day. I really want to see them. I think they're amazing, and they've survived because the salt plains have been dug so deeply into by the ancient Nazca people. That they have survived this long. But a lot of people don't talk about the mountain regions that are just above the Nazca Lines, which, by the way, if you say the only way you can really see the Nazca Lines is by taking a flight over, which is interesting. But no one ever really talks about the actual quote-unquote airstrip landing runways that have survived and are dated back to the same time as the Nazca Lines, that have survived on these flattened mountaintops, which have always been extremely interesting. I'll actually show you them. So the theory goes behind them is the Nazca Lines. Oh, there is even one of a space alien Nazca line. I'm going to show you. So the Nazca Lines, the Nazca...
It's literally like the alien head emoji or something like that.
Oh,
like it's super clear.
It is absolutely like... So here's a picture of the runway strips atop of a mountainside in Nazca. So you can see why some people would call them runway strips as well. So the theory goes is that they are landing sites for ancient astronauts, and the Nazca Lines themselves, not the landing strips, the Nazca Lines themselves are drawings that
Nazca Lines again.
Nazca Lines are drawings of these basically these things that the people of that area would have obviously known, and that they wanted the people, the quote-unquote sky gods, to come back to them, because the theory is that the Nazca Lines were only drawn after the quote-unquote gods had left them. And I always found that there's the drawing of the...
you should be in the room right now. Like, there's so many air quotes being thrown around.
There's the famous alien of the Nazca Lines. I'm going to put a few of these up on the Instagram because there's some really, really cool evidence of them. Now, I am by no means saying that this is what actually happened, but I do find it really... I mean, like, there is a hill in England that has a giant carved into the hill with a massive erection.
Yeah.
Just as, like, in connection with this, it's a giant that's carved into a hill. But that's just one of them that I find really, really fascinating.
Great. But also, again, it does make total sense, though, why... people, well, no, see, okay, my theory, which I feel like because I feel like I can tell you're gonna have like Sumeria and all that kind of stuff on internet.
Oh yeah, it's coming up.
and Egypt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel some of these theories can be like borderline racist in a way.
Explain.
And I'm not because people are like, well, there's no way they would have been able to do that. And it's like,
oh, but they could have.
But
yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing. It's kind of taking credit away from... Now, mind you, I am not a skeptic when it comes to shit like this. I am nearly always like the esoteric person in the room being like, yeah, but what if this?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just kind of... Because I assume you're going to come from the other side. It's more interesting if we're both not just like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do feel like it is weird because I feel like a lot of these ancient alien things... especially when it comes to like ancient megastructures and stuff like that, do kind of completely discredit the people who actually built
the effort and the work. Yeah.
Now, when it comes to ancient Egypt and like the pyramids and stuff, I feel like that is very mysterious because it's like, how the fuck did they actually do that? Because like those
which
blocks...
it's not a tomb, by the way. Modern science says that the pyramids were a tomb. No mummies, no evidence of anything like that was ever found in any of pyramids. So, like, it's a complete... Because we have the Valley of the Kings. The Valley of the Kings is a burial ground. The pyramids are not a burial ground.
But there's always been that thing where it's like, oh, well, under the Sphinx, there's, like, a giant spaceship. And
they also said there's a hall of records hidden within the Sphinx because...
They got the old Madonna burning up 12-inch down there.
They have, the theory goes with that is that inside the Sphinx there is a hall of records. Yeah. Because the Sphinx itself is older than the pyramids.
Yeah.
And it was the time, I can't remember, it's a specific age the Egyptians refer to as the time before their like society had blossomed, and they said that there were the people, and this is what Graham Hancock talks about, like places at like Göbekli Tepe and things like that.
I love that word.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And that he says that there are shafts that lead into a secret area inside the Sphinx that has evidence and bullshit and things like that. There's also a place underneath Jerusalem's Temple Mount that is reportedly has the Ark of the Covenant in it. And
okay,
all
but
that
also
type of
I've
thing,
heard
you know.
so many theories about, like, well, there's actually like 10 Arks of the Covenant or whatever. And it's
Oh
like,
yeah,
well,
they've just been reported over time.
It's
Yeah.
like, why would there be?
Yeah.
But also, if you found the Ark of the Covenant, well, there's the commandments or whatever. Great, you know. But yeah, I do feel like a lot of these kind of theories do kind of have like a weird basis in being like, yeah, but there's no way those people could have done that.
Exactly. It
It's
takes the power away from those people.
It's like, or you're like completely underestimating the mass, like, wealth and riches that could have been put behind
And
some of these.
manpower and slavery.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the amount of power that could have been put behind these things to go into it. Because nobody is like, well, how did they build a Colosseum?
Exactly.
You know, nobody is like weird about shit like that. But it's like when you get into like Sumeria or like Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt, it's kind of like, well, why couldn't they have? There was nothing else going on.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there was everyday life and shit, but it's like there was like, you know, crazy shit happened back in the day because people had not a lot to occupy their time. You know? Now, with the pyramids, I do understand that is still very mysterious because some of those blocks are cut precisely. And the stone that it's made out of is, like, really, really hard stone. But also, it's like, people are very, very smart, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when they have all the time in the world to think about these things. There are ways to build ancient saws or to build whatever, like, I feel like people think technology only really started within our lifetime. And it's like, no, technology started when people made fire.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's when it happened. Thanks, Prometheus, to bring it back to
Hey.
yeah, I just find it kind of weird. And then also, a lot of these cultures are cultures that have sky gods. But also, naturally, you're going to go to the sky because it's the only other place
The sun,
besides here.
the moon, the
to
stars.
go to the sky or the water.
Yeah.
Because they're the two places in which we don't live and can't live. They're both the most mysterious areas to humans or like terrestrial beings, you know. Now, the ocean, like talking about like inner space, those shits are aliens. If you look at an octopus, that thing's an alien. You know, like there's nothing else like it. You know, and they're so incredibly intelligent. There's like that theory that it's like octopuses are just like, I'll let them have the land. You know what I mean? Like, they won't overthrow us because they're just like being nice about it or whatever. You know, Lena has this whole thing. She's like, well, look, when the octopus decide to like overthrow us, she'll like bow down to our like tentacled overlords or whatever. Octopuses are fucking aliens, bro. I'm fucking telling you. That's the thing. You're saying that, like, we were talking about this last week, where you were saying like aliens probably would be even slightly humanoid to kind of look like us, and then it's like, but take for example the octopus, something that is like extremely intelligent, that's not even remotely humanoid, that doesn't really look like much else on this planet anyway. Like, they set traps. Or I saw a video the other day of an octopus that had disguised itself as an eel, and then it was like, that thing has consciousness, or like it has what's that thing, like it's how we can like recognize ourselves in a mirror and not a lot of the other animals can. That's what, like, you ever seen that video where they put the mirror in the middle of the jungle and like one animal will walk past and be like, oh shit, because it thinks it's another animal, versus like if an elephant walks past it and it's like it recognizes itself in the mirror. It's that consciousness thing. But like octopuses can do that. So it's like that thing had an idea of what it looked like and was able to like change its shape and shit like that and make the two spots where its ears are look like eyes, so that it could like attract prey or deter prey.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I feel like something could be like that. I don't feel like something would need to be exclusively humanoid, you know? Because again, being human or being humanoid is actually kind of a deterrent. Like, we can't really do much when it, like, compared to a lot of other animals.
Well, maybe you can't.
No, but like we're stuck on the ground. We're stuck on the ground. We wouldn't be able to hunt or anything if we didn't have tools.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have any natural... Like, our nails are soft, our teeth are blunt, you know, our bellies are kind of the whole way around. We don't really have any, like, tough skin anywhere.
Well, I have tough skin.
Yeah, I know.
I survived this long.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's interesting you should talk about, like, creating natural saws and precision work and things like that, because the other piece of evidence that always that astronaut theorists keep going back to is this place in La Paz in Bolivia called Pumapunku, which is part of like the Tiwanaku, like massive megalithic sites and things like that.
Yeah.
And the reason why Pumapunku keeps coming up is because right then and there, there is massive evidence of use of either diamond cut ancient saws, or precision cutting, because what you find in Pumapunku is you find these massive bricks that have been almost, no, it's not 100% accurate straight away, but almost precise cut. I'm going to show you this now.
Yeah, like it makes sense for like wood and stuff, but then when you see it with stone, it's like, okay, but like how did you do that?
There is a part in Pumapunku that has been called it's been called basically like this is where the saw was used to cut stone, and so this is the rock that was found at Pumapunku, which has. This is where the saw would have stood. This is where water would have driven down into the rock. So obviously, just to make it easier for the saw to cut through it. And then, right in the corner of this rock, is precise measurement cut holes, notches used. And the reason why people
make it easier for cutting as well, when you're basically removing like a third of the structure, it's easier to cut through.
And these are what they call the H blocks, which are essentially, they kind of fit like Lego pieces, one into the next, and they are the same measurements. They are 90-degree angles on the spot, and they have been cut precisely to completely slide one into the next. And these are those H blocks.
But see, then also with these things, again, that is still very impressive. But with these things, I think people are thinking like the pyramids were built in like, or like these ancient structures were built in like the same time span as like a building would be built today. And it's like, no, the pyramids took
thousands of years
long to be built.
Yeah.
Which is why it makes sense that people could do it, you know, because it took so long. It's not like they threw the pyramids up in a year or they threw these up in a year. Like these things were built within people's lifetimes, and people died and were born. You know, it's like one king or one ruler may have ordered these things, and he could be long dead before it's still buried. Like the people who commissioned the pyramids were dead before they were finished. You know, which is why, again, I find it like, again, it's very fun to like hypothesize and to kind of think like, oh well, what if? Or but again, it's like even building a house can take up to a year. Like you could have it like built up in a stack or whatever like that, but like it's probably not going to be as soundly structured, which is why like the pyramids, because they took so long to build it, because they were so like geniusly engineered, why they're still around, you know. But yeah, it's like if people had nothing else to do, if you dedicated your entire life and you had thousands of people working on one structure for years and years and years and years, yeah, it's going to be impressive looking. It's going to look crazy. And they're going to focus in on every detail. Yeah. You know?
But the funny thing about the pyramids and things like that...
That's so funny.
Is because they...
so impressed.
is that, you know, the way the current standards to how a pyramid like that was built, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there are... somewhere some of those stones could be anywhere of 20 to 30 to 40 to 60 tons.
But there are ways to do it, though.
There are ways to do it, but the original proposed idea, which is the one that mainstream scientists accepted for 50 to 60 years since the thing, is that they were rolled there on
like logs and stuff.
logs,
Yeah.
and they were carved from granite,
Over there
hundreds of
and then
miles
there.
away.
Yeah.
And people looked at that and said, yeah, that's totally fine. And as long as they were like dragged by horses and people with massive ropes and things like that, and
see how
elephants,
big
they
those
would have used
blocks
those
are.
times.
But
There's
exactly.
no possible way logs, unless they were hundreds of feet, there's no way they
Yeah.
could have been supported like that. And there is no way a wooden structure would have supported the weight of that to lift those blocks up so high to that pyramid. And yes,
That
they
is-
did get smaller as
No, I was
it
gonna say, but
went
that
up.
is the thing that is insane, is the fact that everything
They got
is
from here
stacked. It's
to
not
up
like
there.
Exactly.
There's
It's
no
like,
way.
How the fuck, yeah. But also, there is, because it happened.
Yeah.
I do find it more
Because even our
plausible.
modern machinery cannot lift a weight like that.
No, like if we tried to build the pyramids today, we probably
Wouldn't be able to do it, yeah.
But also because we have things like laws and workers' rights and regulations, because you can't just employ elephants to
Yeah.
carry your fucking giant structure.
yeah.
That is the thing, though, is like just looking at how the pyramids are and how they're structured and shit, and just being like.
Yeah.
Also considering that like people were smaller then, and people, like you wouldn't have had people
The
who were, like,
lifespan was shorter,
exactly
thinner,
and
weaker.
it's mad when you look at all them door frames and everything, they're all so low. Like everybody was really short and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find it insane. But then also you look at things like ancient like paintings from like hundreds of years ago. It's like that looks like a photograph, and it's like, of course it does, because this person spent their entire life painting things.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't a hobby.
Yeah.
This wasn't like they go to work and then they come home and do a little bit of painting. It's like they're spending every free minute they have doing this. So of course it's going to be impressive looking. But like I wouldn't equate that to being like, no, you couldn't have done that. It had to have been an alien.
Yeah, because like I feel like it's a cop out to say something like an alien was the reason behind it, So this is going to sound like a more random kind of one, but it's sort of referenced a few times, is the Black Stone of the Kaaba.
Oh my God,
the
that's
House
so
of
random.
God. So if you're not familiar, in Islam there is Mecca. You're praying to it 5 times, at least praying in that direction 5 times a day. In Islamic faith and tradition,
Facing east, is that?
facing east, yeah. I suppose it kind of depends on your locational, geographically, but
Or you're facing
east in
towards
general.
Mecca anyway, from wherever you are, yeah.
And you're praying 5 times a day. And the reason why Mecca in particular is because the Kaaba itself used to be, before the Prophet Muhammad, praise be him, would go. It was a pagan temple. It was a site that belonged to all gods rather than the quote unquote pagan gods, which is sort of demeaning, I feel. If someone was to say it was like it was a pantheon, it was a temple to all gods, so anyone's gods could be worshipped there. It wasn't a problem. Muhammad did have a problem with that, and he was like, no, fuck this, tear down it all, and then put God's house. It's God's house now. That's it.
Yeah.
And in there, the reason why he needed that site is because he followed a quote-unquote shooting star, a falling star, which is now currently the famous Black Stone of the Kaaba. And if you don't know, the reason why people pilgrimage to Mecca is because they will circle it 7 times, praying. Once they get to the center, they will try and kiss the Black Stone, just like the Blarney Stone.
Yeah.
Exactly, they'll try to kiss it. They will
Which is
pray
so
to
gross
it.
when you think about it.
They have, they have a tradition that they sometimes people feel like they're being pulled in toward the stone itself, from the outsides of Mecca straight into the Kaaba itself. Which is why they circle it and getting closer and closer and closer as they get to it. So a lot of people have said, now this is the famous Black Stone. So this is the famous Black Stone that quote unquote fell from the Garden of Eden. Which of course anyone is going to make a reference to, so on and so forth. Anyone who wants a religious reference there, take what you will from that. But basically it's a big fucking stone. And people realize that this is God's stone, this is God's house, this is where it's got to be. A a lot of people have said that the meteorite itself was, this is going to sound so weird, is actually an alien spacecraft. And that inside the Kaaba itself is the remains of the alien spacecraft that it came down in.
But also, that doesn't sound crazy given the information that these people had at the time.
True.
You know, it's like if you are, again, in ancient times and you see some fucking crazy fireball fall from the sky, you're obviously going to be like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know? And it literally could be like, well, actually, now, I was going to say nowadays, that could literally be like poo from a plane. But like, have you ever seen Joe Dirt?
No.
That's what happens. He thinks he has a meteorite, or well, I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years, but he thinks he has like a comet or a meteorite or whatever like that, and it's actually like waste from a plane.
Gross. Oh no.
But like that, it's like, if you have no other explanation, of course you're going to fucking think that. Again, your natural place to turn to for gods is the sky. Like, all religions has some form of deities living in the sky. Well, give or take a couple, I guess. But pretty much they all do. It's like the natural place to turn to. That, or like we were saying earlier, or that, or water, or the forest, or whatever. You know, when you have no explanation, you fill in the gaps for yourself.
So, I think it's a good segue to sort of move into another form of evidence, which is literary evidence.
See, it's true, I wrote it down.
Yeah. So
Me,
these are some of the things that kind of like, which is also a topic I want to sometimes discuss sometime on the Slab, is angels in reference to being aliens and all this type of thing. So I'll start with Christianity, because like there are some certain images in that are just straight up aliens,
like chariots,
bro,
and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, it's literally kind of how people would describe a UFO.
Yeah. So you have, if you don't know, you have the Book of Ezekiel, which is the one where we get the Ophanim. Suppose this is just him. He could have been fucking tripping on shrooms for all we fucking know,
and they
bro.
probably were.
They probably were. So the Book of Ezekiel describes an encounter between Ezekiel himself and God, who arrives via a golden shimmering throne surrounded by fire and smoke and eyes and wheels within wheels that turn in different directions. Man, that guy was smoking some shit, bro.
Exactly. I mean, look, I've seen lights appear from underneath the muck when I've been on acid. So I don't blame people for seeing a burning bush or whatever the fuck they're talking about.
They want to say man burn a bush. So Ezekiel claims that he's taken up into the sky in God's throne. And he sees the entire history of the earth, and where it goes from, and what happens, and what have you. Up until then,
it's like a lot of dirt.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of dust. A lot of nothing.
You have the Book of Enoch, who, if you are not familiar with, is the father of Methuselah, the oldest known human being besides me. The oldest known human being to have ever been recorded, who purportedly lived to like over 900 years of age and things like that. Who was taken into space as well, via wheels, smoke, and eyes.
Wheels. Look, who's in a wheel now, Flash.
Who Methuselah did ask Enoch, will we ever see you again, or things like that. And this is back in the day when humans lived for hundreds of years.
Of course. You either live till 30 or 900.
No.
You know, it's
you know, it's whatever way the wheel spun for you. Get it? See what I did there?
The wheel.
The wheel now, Enoch. And Enoch turned around and said, well, God told me that I will return, I know not when. And Enoch ended up returning to his surprise, to his descendants.
Isn't this like one of the only people who didn't die who actually went to heaven?
Yeah, this is someone who came back.
It's like one of two people who went to heaven without dying. Yeah.
Then you have the famous Jacob's Ladder, who, if you don't know, is quite literally a ladder that descended from heaven, out of clouds, by the way, who could have been a flying saucer for all we know.
Sounds a little rudimentary.
You know, it was a golden ladder, it shimmered, it was hot. There was smoke everywhere. There was fire.
It was a sexy
There was
ladder.
angels who were climbing and descending the ladder at the same time. Yeah, it's basically, it was just really, really kind of, yeah, did you not
How
know
did that
that?
work?
I don't know.
No, like, I know where Jacob's ladder comes from. It's the Bible is obviously referencing the movie. But I mean, like, how they descend and ascend at the same time?
I don't know. There's
Magic, I guess.
there's some views of this where it's like a really kind of widening ladder.
Where like a jungle gym sort of thing? Yeah,
kinda.
climbing frame.
There's there's loads of that. There's also the Great Deluge, which, if you don't know, is the story of Noah's Ark, who was inspired by Sumerian texts belonging to an even older religion beyond Sumerian, which was used all over the what you call it?
You'll have to tell me.
What's that thing? The Mediterranean.
What's that thing? The Mediterranean?
Her!
Oh, the Mediterranean. Who would play her?
So, like, the Great Sumerian Deluge is basically the story of Noah's Ark, and that God had flooded the world but saved a few people.
Which to me is the most
And
bullshit story in the Bible.
Oh, fucking 100% is.
Oh, you're just gonna get one. You're gonna get two of every fucking animal, really, in this one area of the world. Yeah.
You also have the story of the Ark of the Covenant. Supposedly, when Moses went up the mountain to talk to God, God was a physical being who appeared on that mountaintop, not just the burning bush.
It's me, God.
It's me, God! With a Jersey accent.
See, when I hear that, I don't actually think of Michelle Visage. I think of Andy Cohen as Zeus in the Guy video.
Oh,
The
God.
video.
Yeah. Hey, it's me, God.
And it's all the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills as the muses.
As the muses, yeah. So supposedly, when Moses returned, because he disappeared for 40 days and 40 nights, which seems to be a running theme in the Bible
Jesus
a lot.
did that
And then the
like Honey and
Jews,
Locusts
after
and stuff.
being caught by Moses, had to
The
wander the
Maccabees
desert
or
for
whatever.
40 days or 40 years.
Yeah.
And be denied the land of milk and honey, which they were promised.
Ew, milk and honey sounds gross.
The great thing about so when Moses disappeared, this is when the Israelites at the time, the Hebrews who had survived slavery in Egypt, decided to be like, okay, well, Moses is not here, let's go fucking crazy and worship something that we can tangibly do.
Moses.
So they ended up melting all of their gold and their wealth into creating a golden calf. When Moses returned, Moses was transformed. So he doesn't come back as deliver us,
crystallized. Yeah.
as to return an old Amazon bitch ready for the runway.
He came back with straight hair.
Yeah. So Moses had aged something like 50 or 60 years. He looked like an old man
I
when
was
he
going to say,
returned.
we always see that, like, this is like with the commandments, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where you always see Moses, and he's got like a big full grey beard and a big bushy like head of hair. Yeah.
So apparently Moses had been basically aged by way of God.
Yeah.
And the Ark of the Covenant was
Fucking old bitch. Yeah.
so the Ark of the Covenant, the Ten Commandments, had been smashed to pieces because Moses was like, "The fuck y'all doing?" And they were forced to wander the desert for 40
It
years.
says right here not to do that. Stop it.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Which you can't fucking blame. They didn't have it before, and then they
Stop
had it. So
coveting.
like, fuck.
But also, I feel like you don't need a couple of words carved into a stone tablet to tell you not to murder people
Yeah, true.
or to not steal.
Like, hey, let's not steal each other's shit. Yeah.
But also,
It's rude.
sometimes your parents are mean.
Yeah.
And you gotta be mean to them. You know, sometimes you can't help but. What does he do? He covets.
Wait, was she a great big fat person?
Was she a great big stone slab?
So they were placed into the Ark of the Covenant. And this is where the great big
And
stone
then I
slab.
literally can't help the image of, or thinking of the image of Moses coming back and being like, I got my hair straightened, you know?
Does everyone notice?
It's like that one girl in school who has naturally really curly hair comes into school with her
Yeah.
hair straight and she's like,
Seriously.
Exactly. But it was always so much more impressive because it's like, whoa, that's not what you looked like yesterday.
So, the Ark of the Covenant, well, the smashed pieces of the Ark of the Covenant have been placed into the actual Ark itself.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing about the Ark of the Covenant is that it was placed in this very specific measured box.
Covenant. Yeah.
And surmounted by two golden cherubs who were meant to kind of like uphold the seat of God, because that's where they said, no, this is where God is right now. The box is never to be opened, a la Indiana Jones vibes.
No, God.
Exactly.
Well, same thing.
So this is actually a story in the Bible where...
which everybody knows is completely true.
Yeah. So they had been traveling. The cart that the Ark of the Covenant was being transported in.
Yeah.
One of the oxes had, I think it wobbled or something like that, and one of the ox broke its leg.
Whoa!
And the Ark of the Covenant slipped out.
Yeah.
And the person who was driving the cart turned around and tried to close it as quickly as they could. As soon as they laid eyes on the inside of the Ark itself, they died.
They just melted off.
They were smote by, I think it was lightning or something like that.
Is
and they died.
The past tense of
smite? Yeah.
Smite?
Yeah. Of smithed. And he died immediately. And they said that the carriers afterwards had began to so this is where the ancient alien theory comes in, is that the carriers had begun to lose their nails. They aged just like Moses did, and they lost their hair, and they began to die rather quickly.
The hair didn't fall out, it's just over there. Their
so
hair piece.
They basically the idea is that the Ark of the Covenant itself is an ancient alien artifact that obviously people didn't fucking know what it was, and they were just like, let's keep it fucking shut because clearly death happens when it they brought it to Jericho. It was very, very famous city in the Middle East. If you see it today, the walls of the city are vitrified, which means they are turned to glass.
Yeah.
And the famous walls around Jericho are all nothing but dust and crumbling rocks, because when the Jews, the Hebrews and all of that,
Jews.
when they went there, they were denied entry because they were Hebrews.
Yeah.
And they decided to take the Ark of the Covenant and use it against the Jerichonians.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like some jewelry.
So they went around the city 4 times, and they used the Ark of the Covenant in such a way that the walls, when they blew the ram horns, the walls crumbled and they invaded the city.
Yeah.
And which is fascinating. Yeah. Because that type of thing is just, and they to this day we know that the Ark of the Covenant did exist at one point in historical
people also
history.
think that it was like huge, and it's like there would be no reason for
it's
it
not,
to
it's
be
a
like
tiny gold box.
It's a little box.
Yeah.
There'd be no reason for, because when you see it in media, it's like this. It's like a sarcophagus or something.
Yeah, it's massive.
Like they make it look like huge. Now people have always said that, like, oh, we found it, or we found one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or then there's the whole thing of like, oh shit, I was watching a video on it the other day where they had allegedly found one. And there's also supposed to be one in Ethiopia as well. People in Ethiopia like swear by there's one in this building. And
that one in the island where Croatoan was carved into the tree. There's the famous money pit.
Yeah.
That is being held by, the quote unquote was held by pirates.
But then there's supposed to be one
underneath Jerusalem, the Holy Mount.
Exactly, found directly under where Jesus was crucified.
Yes.
That's like sealed with Jesus' blood. That it was like, they found that it was human blood, and then it was dry, but it was still alive, or whatever it was. I know. Yeah, there are people who have sworn up and down. But also, I don't doubt that people, after hearing this story hundreds of years ago, have made arcs. Yeah. To be like, we have one. You know, and it's like, well, how do you know if that it's the one? You know? Open it.
Open it. Check it. See it.
Open it up. Get your little robots to open it up and see what happens.
The other one that I find, now this is, you can go to this place. This place is called the Mound of the Dead. This place in what is modern day Pakistan.
This is like a big dead boner.
This place called Mohenjo-daro.
Of course.
Who is over 2,600 years old, BC. So it's a place where there has been evidence of a nuclear explosion, right? So skeletons found in an instantaneous death position, like crawling, having died, like straight away, like just keeled over and died. Walls vitrified and pottery fused together into whatever that means. According to the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita, which are the Hindu texts, white smoke of brilliance, horses that were set on fire, corpses vaporized by intense fire, and then the one of the more terrifying things is, and then a silence spread across the land. So people started to get sick. Hair and nails fell from bodies. So the only possible reason as to why this happened, and by the way they talk about this is this was an explosion. It was a nuclear fallout. Yeah. The way So the way they describe it is this is exactly what happened when the the quote from Oppenheimer where he quotes the Bhagavad Gita. This is where that comes from.
And now I have become death.
This is where the Prince of Mohenjo-Daro, which is, it wasn't originally called Mohenjo-Daro, it's called Mohenjo-Daro now because it's known as the Land of the Dead.
People were pissed that they used that quote in a sex scene.
They were. There was a whole
seems like a random fucking moment to use that. I also just finished, this is random for you, but probably not random in general. I finished Mortal Kombat 11 last night in Noob Saibot's thing, and his end quote is now I have become death, destroyer of worlds. I thought that was really cool because he kills Chronica, who's like this time goddess, and he basically becomes like if the Grim Reaper became God. Yeah, it's like pretty cool. He's able to like shroud the world in darkness. It's cool.
Well, it's because
did you just fart?
No, I think my nail clocked.
I heard a little.
So afterwards, this is when he says that he's like, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, because he threatens the prince who's threatening death to Vishnu's land, his people, and all of that. And he transforms into his many-armed form and says, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds, and that happens. So saith the Mahabharata. Yeah. And afterwards...
No, you say the word saith.
Yeah. Garuda, who appears as this giant flaming bird, often being ridden by Vishnu, appears, and everyone bows down in awe because there's flame and smoke, and Garuda is glittering with rubies and jewels and gold and things like that. And ancient astronaut theorists believe that is an alien who has appeared in his flying ship, because there's a lot in the Bhagavad Gita that talks about their flying ships and that they appeared on chariots that flew.
This is actually going to be one of my points as well, the idea of like the Hindu gods too, the idea of the blue skin, the idea of the many arms, like that coming from the sky, but also that's like a lot of that comes from like, it's a lot of like cosmic references too. The idea, because I actually looked this up a while ago. Me and Yemi,
you have the constellation of Orion.
Me and Yemi were, and then we were kind of looking up. We were like, "Why the fuck are they blue, or like jet black, or green, or pink, or whatever
or red,
it is?"
Or
because like my example would be like Kali. It's like she has her like jet black form, but then she has her like natural blue form, where it's like that's supposed to be a reference to space, like the night sky, basically. Well, see, I feel like the night sky versus like the cosmos is like different for some reason. It's like the idea of being on Earth versus out there in it. So it's like that kind of, again, that makes total sense as to why people would think that there'd be ancient aliens, because they're like humanoid, but they're also like just different enough from us that it's like, what the fuck is this? You know? And again, coming from the sky, riding these things. Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, there's also I can't remember, but the first emperor of China purportedly he wasn't human. He arrived here.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Via I don't want to say it, but like he arrived here via a dragon.
Is it like a slur? I just don't feel like saying it.
So Qin Shi Huang.
Okay.
And I could have fucking butchered that.
Let me see.
But, yeah, because there's his photo. And basically, the story goes is he was the first emperor.
Dude looks like a gourd.
The dude basically arrived here on a dragon. And the idea is that, again, like, at the time, we didn't understand what they may have been looking at. Again, like, dragons are associated with smoke and fire and glittering scales and all of this type of thing. You have the story of him arriving, showing up, and he brings peace to all the warring states.
Yeah.
Afterwards, and then there's this great time of peace and law and order. And
shit, we better chill out. This dude came in on a dragon.
Yeah, we need to fucking
relax,
the fuck down. You know, there are North African tribes and Sub-Saharan African tribes that believe the constellation of Orion, just like the Egyptians, are the place, on Sirius as well, the constellation of Sirius and things like that, are the place of where their gods came from. I mean, you have all the Egyptian gods who specifically say that we came from here.
Yeah. And
we are, your gods. We will bring law, we will bring order, and all of this something. I mean, like the Egyptians very specifically say it's the same with the Sumerians. Yeah. And with the Anunnaki and all of them with Enki and Enlil.
Anunnaki sound good.
It does. It
like
rolls
sage
off the
and
tongue.
lemon.
But they all say it was like very specific, and also when it comes to the Anunnaki themselves, they the story with them is they come from they come from a place called Nibiru, which was a massive thing during 2012.
Yeah.
Supposedly that planet was supposed to show up sometime during December 21st, 2012.
I was having a straight up panic attack then. I
loved it. I was like, it either is going to happen or it isn't.
You were at a party.
Yeah, we were.
I was in my room being like, I want to be remembered as an artist. Literally. You know what? When it gets to that date this year, on my Facebook memories, I will show you. That's exactly what I posted on Facebook. I was having 5 panic attacks at the same time.
But that's where they all come from.
But to your point, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just very quick because the Sumerians say very specifically that their gods lived among them for a time. Yeah. And they said that the Anunnaki were the ones who created them, first of all. That they genetically altered, which is where we get the serpentine thing from. We get that from that and Roman mythology. And they came here specifically to use us, not as slaves, but as a workforce. It's just slavery with extra steps.
Yeah, exactly.
And they mined our planet for gold, specifically, because they needed it something for their atmosphere or some sort of shit. Yeah. But like, that's another kind of like.
I've actually gotten super back into Egyptian mythology.
Yeah. And you've Quetzalcoatl. You have Tezcatlipoca. Yeah. You have all of these gods from Mayan mythology.
Again, like blue-skinned, like the flying serpent.
Yes,
the winged
the
serpent.
rainbow serpent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad when you get into all of that stuff where it's like, okay, of course, like, but to me, to say like the idea of there being like ancient aliens is as believable as saying there's ancient gods.
Yeah,
like I don't,
because they're one and the same in my opinion.
But basically, they're just one is a placeholder for the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they are mutually exclusive to some people.
Yeah.
But because people aren't like finding evidence. People are just kind of slotting in aliens into an already pre-existing religion or an already pre-existing mythology or belief or whatever. Which again is fascinating. It's always fun to kind of Da Vinci Code things. Yeah. To kind of feel like, ooh, well, what if we looked at it from another angle? What if it was this? Yeah. And like that, looking at deities, like a lot of deities have like blue skin or like like humanoid features, but have something else that's like kind of slightly different.
Yeah.
You know,
The heads are slightly elongated, or
being
the
able to
eyes are
fly.
larger.
Like that in what the fuck is that movie? 10,000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
Then what the fuck is that thing called again? The like that like really tall, long thing with the really big head with the like long gold nails.
I don't know.
You know where they get
I
up to that
remember.
temple, to
Yeah.
that like giant temple or whatever. There's like I forget what it's called. Here, I'm actually pretty sure that's an ancient alien movie. You keep talking for me.
Well, another thing I sort of wanted to talk about was the literal evidence of ancient aliens.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, the quote unquote, shall we say. And the first one that really always got me was the crystal skulls.
Yeah.
Which are, again, this is one thing where I look at it, it's like, again, it could have just been the Mayan obsession with death itself, which is a huge part of their culture, arguably. And they could have just carved these things. But apparently they have, because crystal is a very, what's that thing? It's a substance that can radiate, I want to say energy, but like it has a certain energy about it. We use crystals for
even
a
now,
lot
we
of
use them a
stuff
lot,
in
yeah.
healing and things like that. So it's one of those things where there's certain types of crystal skulls that have fakes, that are real. I saw a crystal skull in the British Museum. I thought that was fantastic to look at. It was, one of those things that are famously,
Stolen.
Exactly, stolen. Like every time there was an argument, like there was a Moai statue as well there from Easter Island, and things. There was always this like disclaimer saying like this artifact is currently under investigation with the appropriate sources and things like that. And I'm just like, yeah, because
We stole
it.
Yeah.
You have obviously, as I mentioned, the Ark of the Covenant. You have the Baghdad Battery, which, if people don't know, the Baghdad Battery, apart from being from Baghdad, is really interesting. It's a name given to a set of 3 artifacts, which were found together: a ceramic pot, a tube of copper, and a rod of iron. And basically, when inserted one into the other, and added with vinegar and salt, created electricity. Now, it doesn't. Shall I say, it doesn't create like, whoa, it's turning on the but
Yeah.
it does create a chemical reaction which does produce electricity, if only very, very, very faint voltage. And these were found as giant carvings in Egyptian temples and things like that, where they basically look like massive giant light bulbs.
Well, yeah,
And
there
they're
actually has always
amazing.
been that thing that like the Egyptians and stuff were able to produce electricity back in the day, and that it was kind of like snubbed out, or that it was kind of like hidden, because then again it's kind of being like, no, they couldn't have done that. Like where it's kind of just discrediting a whole
Exactly,
group of people,
a culture and the intelligence level of the people at the time, and how they were working with these things, you know? You have the Mayan Lord Pakal, and if you don't know, this is the one that very specifically references an astronaut in a... Excuse me.
I'm trying to find something to say.
Is very famous because it references a very literal astronaut. If you've ever seen it, it's really, really interesting. It's basically Lord Pakal, who is a Mayan god, sitting in the quote unquote cockpit of a alien spacecraft. If you look at him, he is sitting in a sort of a laid-back position. His feet are sitting inside 2 levers. His hands are working on dials and knobs. And his nose has an inserted air tube. Well, at least this is what ancient astronaut theorists are coming up with. And underneath him are massive, massive flames.
It's very Giger.
It is very Giger-esque. But I absolutely love it. I really do. I think it's a beautiful image, first of all. Now, do I think it's an astronaut? No. But do I think it's a beautiful piece of craftsmanship and work? Absolutely. I think it's beautiful. You have the petroglyphs from Valkominica. I mean, I could have that wrong.
Of course.
Of course. Who are very, very interesting.
Tell me all about it.
I'm
not ignoring you. I'm trying to find something better to do. No, I'm trying to find this thing from 10,000 BC. It's going to piss me off.
So these are the, how will I describe them? The sort of most ancient versions of, like, shall we say, the spacemen, or the sky gods, or things like that. And you get all of these references to spirals, the galaxies. You have this famous one of the hunters with a larger humanoid with them. Now these are basically all just carved into rocks. You have one of the very famous ones, which is of the American Southwest, which has their, because what they were seeded by that civilization. They are directly, these were our ancestors. These were the gods that came here, that gave us our intelligence, that gave us the land and things like that, which is also a weird reference to reptilians and things like that, which I want to go into that in another episode. That's a whole different thing of itself.
Oh, that's creepy though.
And then you have the Paracas skulls, which, if anyone is unfamiliar with, these are the ones who were in practice of binding their heads.
To elongate them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look at these, now there's plenty of them. There's a huge amount of evidence.
It still happens.
It still happens. There are some cultures that still do it.
They bind your head when you're a baby.
Exactly. And basically what they do is that I think it's leather that's wrapped around.
It's like cord.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, when we find skulls like this, it's like, whoa! And it's like, no, but also...
And the Egyptians did it as well.
Yeah, that's why, like,
aristocracy did it.
I was going to say, you see a lot of that with, like...
Akhenaten's daughter, who was famously the one who unified Egypt under the sun god.
Yeah, upper and lower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you see that a lot. And again, finding a skull like that, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, but then now we know. Like, that's the thing, is, like, because we have such easy access to each other from... like each corner of the world, it's so much easier to go, oh, well, that's why this is happening.
Yeah.
Versus then, it might take you years to find out. Or it might take you years to find out and then bring it back to people.
Yeah.
Like, literally everything would have just had to have been word of mouth. You know, there would have been no way to, like, genuinely broadcast things. Obviously, you could, like, have a place where you could go for information and shit like that, but, like, we didn't have libraries in the same sense that we do now. Even the idea of, like, the Library of Alexandria, when we think about that, okay, when you think about that, did you not used to think, like, before you actually saw what that looked like, did you not used to think that was, like, some giant library thing that because it's like when you hear that it held all the information in the world, it sounds like this giant fucking, like,
yeah,
and then you see it and it's like, it's actually tiny.
Yeah, I mean, my reference for that was Tomb Raider at the beginning of the film, where they find that orb thing. That was my reference to it anyway. But I thought it was interesting.
You get to walk around that in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Alexandria?
Yeah. Or no, in Origins, because you're in ancient Egypt and stuff. Or no, it's in Greece. No, it's not. It's in Egypt.
Yeah, the Great Library of Alexandria is in Egypt, yeah. It's in North...
Occupied by Greeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Ptolemaic dynasty, I think. Because that's where Alexander is descended... Or no, because the Ptolemaic dynasty is descended from Alexander. Yeah, that's... Yeah. The last thing I wanted to talk about was events, i.e. UFO sightings and things like this. Because this is where it gets crazy.
People on drugs.
So one of them that I find is super, super fucking interesting is the tale of the Antarctic, with Admiral Byrd and his diary entries.
Mr. Byrd.
So Admiral Byrd was sworn into secrecy to never... This is where that whole idea of, like, Nazis at the center of the earth and shit comes from.
Well, that's where Hitler went, into the Hollow Earth.
Exactly, yeah, the Hollow Earth theory and things like that, which I want to talk about that someday. That's a really cool one as well.
It's not appropriate for the podcast, though.
It's conspiracies and the macabre and the weird.
It's not macabre.
Whatever.
No.
It's the slab.
Yeah.
We always dissect a topic.
And we got rules.
So, basically, Admiral Byrd is the man who famously he was like Amelia Earhart. He solo missioned through the Arctic and the Antarctic, and he. When he was flying through the Antarctic, which is the top, not the bottom.
On wings, that's where he got his name.
Yes, exactly. And basically, he was a scout mission to find places for naval bases and things like that across the Antarctic. Yeah. And he reportedly flew into a massive cave and was beamed to the ground from a crystal city. And he was escorted to a underground waterfall, and he was told by quote unquote the master. See where I'm going with that? That he was because this was right around the time of again Oppenheimer with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that these people were concerned that the human race is going to shit. And that they were going to prevent it at all costs.
That was like 100 years ago.
Yeah, he was to go back to the US Senate and all of this and report his findings and say that, look, if you don't fucking fix it, we will. And he was sworn to secrecy about it until his death, and then his diaries were found.
Yeah.
So it was
just fucking aliens, bro.
So yeah, that was one that I found rather interesting because like he didn't do it. He never revealed it himself. He was sworn to secrecy, and then these diaries were found and brought to light. You know, I'm not saying there's a hollow earth theory. I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I just genuinely find it interesting.
Well, see, I find a lot of like modern UFO sightings kind of interesting because you find that a lot of them happen in the same area as well.
Yes.
Which is kind of like
the US. Cough. Cough.
Yeah, exactly. The aliens don't give a shit about anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also, you find a lot of people seeing angels as well in America. People are freaking crazy. But no, the idea of like, and I'm not talking about just like Roswell or anything like that, or like like Area 51, like none of that shit. I'm talking about like there are like specific areas in the country of America or in America where you see that there's like a large group of sightings that have been, and it kind of picked up around like the 50s and 60s.
Oh, of course.
Shit started, like,
like, when the space race began a big thing.
Exactly, and like when sci-fi started to be like accessible to people and started to be like an actual genre on itself.
This is where like the quote unquote like the greys started appearing.
Yeah, now they creep me out just because like that's what I think of when I think of aliens or the aliens from Science. It's just the idea of like just a plain kind of humanoid thing. Again, just kind of, I mean, like I don't mind being probed or whatever, but it's just the idea. Like you've seen Fire in the Sky. Yeah, like that kind of thing where it's just like, oh. Like, don't do that. Don't do
it's what is that thing you said? It was in the conspiracy theories episode.
Mothman.
No, the Uncanny Valley.
Oh yeah, but they're
fear.
They're like the shape of people.
Yeah,
like you're shaped like a human, but you aren't.
Yeah,
yeah, or like the giant eyes, or what is it? The McPherson tapes. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Where he goes up to his room and then out of the corner, out of the darkness, that alien just comes right up to his face and he pisses all over himself. Same bitch.
Honestly, piss all over me, daddy.
No, I remember watching that, like, just having lunch when I was like 8 with my nanny. Watched it on Sky Horror and Thriller or whatever it was, and just fucking shot all over myself. I was so scared.
So there's the other.
I didn't actually shit all over myself because I don't poop.
There's the Rendlesham Forest incident. So this is one of which Rendlesham, of course, the only place where that's going to be is England. The great UK.
It sounds like
some UK, jewelry. Hun.
It does sound like some jewelry.
Yeah. So it's the most notorious UFO encounter that has ever happened or ever been recorded in the UK. And it happened back in 1980. So strange lights were reported over a US serviceman airbase. And the quote unquote, this is like revealed to the public like 40 years later, so it was only recent. So they reported that they could see blue flying lights over the camp during the early hours, and then they heard a massive crash / roar of engines. And when they went to go check out where it was, they thought it was like a downed aircraft or whatever, so they weren't saying, oh, it's fucking aliens or anything like that. Right up until they saw the actual thing, they were like, this is a downed aircraft. So they quote unquote said the air was electrically charged and that their radios died feet from where they found this craft. They said they found a triangular craft that had glyphs glowing all around it. Yeah. And when one of the servicemen touched the craft itself, which was still warm or was hot to the touch, he immediately perceived in his mind's eye 010111000101, all of that kind of thing, over and over again. And he said for hours later on, when he had retreated from the site because they were like losing their fucking minds at the sight of this thing. That? Yeah, I know, right? That he couldn't get the code out of his head. Yeah, it was just stuck there, and he it just wasn't leaving his brain. And
that's called remembering things.
No, but as in, like, it was the only thing you could fucking see.
Well, yeah, you just touched, like, a fucking downed craft or whatever like that. That's just called thinking about stuff.
And then one of the most famous ones, which is back in the 1500s, and this was put out in news in Germany.
In the 1500s?
In the 1500s, because they had paper distribution back then. And they were reporting on things like, the Black Plague and all of that kind of thing.
Still here, bro.
Where they literally envisioned death.
It's like in Monty Python, where it's like, I've entered the cave and there's just trying.
No, it basically they described it as I can't remember. I'm just gonna look
a
this
huge
up.
dog.
German city.
The German
UFO lights, 1500s. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, she's come to the cabinet unprepared.
The celestial... here we go. 1561. I even got the date right. A mass sighting of celestial phenomena, or UFOs, occurred in 1561 above Nuremberg, then a free imperial city of the Holy Roman Empire. The view is mostly dismissed by skeptics, some referencing Carl Jung's mid-20th century writings about the subject. Others feel the phenomenon was likely to have been UFOs. Mm-hmm. It's only a carving that was later printed with colour and things like that. This was the report that was taken of basically a war that was happening just above their houses, of an alien, like, I want to say invasion, but like I'm guessing it was some sort of war or some shit, and they were just referring to it as a
Star
UFO.
War.
And this is what they drew. It's what they recorded.
Do you know honestly what that looks like?
Crazy.
It looks like a comet shower.
It could have been. It most likely was.
Have
but they were looking at it going like, this is UFOs fighting each other.
But have you ever seen like a meteor shower?
Yeah, it's
in
just
person.
a load of...
No, they're really intense. Like, they look insane. And it looks like they're, like, right above you, because they're so bright. There was one... when was this? This was, like, 2 years ago or something. Emma's cousin told me that there was going to be a meteor shower coming up in the next couple of weeks or whatever like that. Yeah. So I, like, planned around it. Set at the back garden, had all the lights in the kitchen and everything off, so it was, like, as dark as possible. And, like, again, just sitting there having a smoke or whatever, and like that, there was just, like, showers of, like, these huge, like, like, just burning out. And then all the power on the estate went out. So the whole place went pitch black, and it was just the sky. It was insane. But like that, if I saw that in fucking 1561 or whatever like that...
You wouldn't know what you're looking at.
You'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Well, there's two... kind of interpretations of it, and Carl Jung, who was the one who was sort of what's the word, like, editorializing,
that's or English for
Flying Saucers, a modern myth of things seen in the skies, by Carl Jung, which analysed archetypal meaning of the UFOs. He expressed the view that the spectacle was most like a natural phenomenon with religious and military interpretations overlaying it. And this is quoted here. They were living organisms. One would think of a swarm of insects rising with the sun, not to fight one another, but to mate or celebrate the marriage of flight. That's what it looks like to them. A military interpretation would view the tubes as cannons and the spheres as cannonballs, emphasize the black spearhead at the bottom of the scene, and Glazer's own testimony that the globes fought vehemently until exhausted. A religious view would emphasize the crosses. Young thinks that the image of the four globes coupled by lines suggested crossed marriage quaternities, whatever that means, and formed the model of the primitive cross cousin marriage. So, like, basically...
I don't understand what the fuck you just said.
Yeah, neither do I. It was also on Good Friday, like, a week earlier, so, like...
Oh, it's because I didn't eat fish.
Yeah, they were just, like,
They were eating
high
red
off
meat.
of, like, buckwheat and shit.
Yeah, they ate red meat on Good Friday.
So, yeah, it's...
Do
So
you
that's...
eat fish on Good Friday?
I eat whatever the fuck I want.
That's so fucked up.
Listen, you.
And we're going to the Vatican, okay?
Okay. So, that's,
We're going on a Saturday. We're going to get fucked up. Did you ever drink holy water as a kid?
No.
Not from the font, dummy. I mean, like, did you ever drink...
No.
holy water?
I have never drank holy water. Gross. You fucking kidding me? What's wrong with you?
It all tastes the same. You ate frozen grapes. Same thing. You never tasted...
I'm looking at him weird.
You've never tasted... Yeah, it's because you're cross-eyed. You got cataracts in, too.
Fuck you.
You never drank holy water?
No.
It all tastes the same. It's good.
Oh, whatever.
No, you know when you used to go to people's houses and they have those little...
You used to sneak a swig?
No, it used to be like, like a bottle shaped like Mary or whatever.
Yeah, and used to sneak a swig, did you?
Twirl her hat off and drink some of it, yeah.
You're gross.
Why?
Ew.
It's everybody else that drank out of it.
Ew.
Why is it ew? It's
That's
just
nasty.
It's just water blessed by a priest.
You are fucked up, bro.
It's literally just water blessed
Why
by
would
a
you drink
priest.
it then?
Because I was a kid. It's holy water. It's God's water.
Girl...
What do you mean? Why is it
Whatever.
gross? It's literally just... It's not somebody's bath water that's been blessed. It's just water from a tap that's been blessed by a priest.
Whatever.
I used to drink it. I used to...
Whatever, which, however.
No, I used to more than a couple of times drink holy water when I was a kid. Now, I would never drink out of the font because that's gross, because people do be putting their hands in there and all. And that's why...
Whatever.
And that's why I'm blessed and highly flavoured. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done. But I'd like to talk about this topic again, even if it's like about UFOs
again,
or, greys or reptilians or what's the other one? Some people say they're like the praying mantis looking ones and shit.
Like an insectoid kind of thing.
Yeah, insectoid. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I'd like to talk about that kind of things.
That'd be cool. I'm not talking about the Hollow Earth though.
We'll see.
No, I'll see.
Well, I mean, actually, come to think of it, if you're going to talk about reptilians, you will be talking about the Hollow Earth, because that's based in and around that, especially if you're talking about Southwest Native Americans, because that's their theory.
Mm-hmm. Other caves and stuff like
and
that.
Skinwalkers and what's the other one?
Wendigos and shit.
Wendigos and shit, yeah. I'd like to talk about, like, we could do cryptids episode, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But also, that's what I mean. I'm not just going to do a whole episode on Hollow Earth. I feel like that would be kind of redundant.
It's another that would be something like if we would do it with like a flat Earth theory as well.
I mean, but see, I wouldn't
like
just
a mixture of all of those.
No.
Yeah, well, it'd be me and my choosing.
But it's not, because then we could
if
just
I got a Slab episode, it will be.
Because then you could just talk about whatever the fuck we wanted to and make it not a horror podcast. Let's just talk about Anne Frank for the fucking hell of it. But I mean, that was.
So what are we doing next week?
We're gonna do the Vivitch. We're going to do The Witch. I feel like I was
Robert Eggers' debut
movie, yeah,
horror film.
and Anya Taylor-Joy's debut movie too.
Really?
Yeah, he found her. That was her first movie.
I did not.
She was
know that.
15 when that came out, which is kind of weird because at the end they kind of show Booby a little bit, where it's kind of like, how old is she? But then, whoa!
Shut up!
Anya Taylor Mountjoy is where you'll be going. Instead of Mount Anya Taylor-Joy. But yeah, I was kind of looking through my list and being like, how the fuck haven't we done this one yet either?
There's a lot of films that we, like, as, like, basis of horror podcasts you think we would have done by now, but there's a lot that we haven't touched on.
Well, it's because I feel like we're trying to avoid the obvious, and we're trying to get, like, a couple of, like, niche bits done. Mm-hmm. Like, we still haven't done Alien or anything.
In 3 years. That's crazy.
I know. Yeah, there's a lot of classics we haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
We still also have to go back and do some old Universal stuff. We've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to do The Witch. I only watched it like a month or so ago, but like I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Haven't watched it in years.
It's great. It's another one that I feel like got kind of panned by a lot of people, but it was like...
Yeah.
I think they
'Cause
went
it wasn't
in expecting...
quote-unquote scary enough. Or
Which
it
is
wasn't enough
ridiculous.
jump
It
scares.
is scary, though.
It is. It's an atmospheric horror.
It's literally the best prequel we'll ever get to the Blair Witch. But it is, though. I feel like it's one of the like most quintessential witch movies that we've gotten in like a very, very long time. My complaint with witches is that they never make them scary, which is annoying to me because witches are.
Because I
scary.
found this witch scary,
Yeah.
but not in the conventional sense, just you jumping out and going boo.
No, and the fact that it's like she's like I like how kind of historically accurate it is as well. Like she's creating an unguent and like you can't fly unless you have the baby and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, The Witch, that should be fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thanks for listening
To the slab or whatever. It feels like. Oh my god, I've never been this hungry in my whole life.
Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram for some daily updated content. And,
I don't know why you say that. It's never daily.
yeah, I know.
Why would it be daily?
I don't know. Why?
Because
You tell me.
there'd be no reason for it to be daily.
So, and leave the comments below. Yeah.